A lot of you are asking what we think about the Washington Post. You've heard us ramble on. Matt did an incredible, thorough evaluation. Go ahead, Matt.
Wow, yeah. I'm taking that with me. Look at that. She's believing in me. I did an analysis of what they did and where I thought they did a poor job of being balanced. But they didn't look at the fact that there's 900,000 claims denied a year, and they didn't look at what the approval rate eventually of what those were and whether those denials were fraudulent themselves. And then I also looked at a bigger picture of, okay, there's fraud in every big organization. And that's just something, unfortunately, we have to accept. That doesn't mean that we don't go fight it and find it and root it out. But what it does mean is that you need to look at a comparative analysis. So I did a comparative to the DoD, to Medicare, to Medicaid, to unemployment, and you can actually see that the fraud rates on those are just astronomical compared to the VA. So the articles were just so disappointing to me because they were so anti-veteran.
Yeah.
On my video as well, I talked specifically about Combat Craig. What they said and did to him, I think, is absolutely despicable.
He's dead, and so he couldn't respond.
He can't respond, and the things they said were just really awful. They tried to paint a picture of him being a fraudster and then trying to get all these other people to get benefits and paying him to get the benefits through these ways that were not legitimate. It was just really, really pathetic what they did. So it gave me a chance to kind of talk about Craig again and what a great guy he was, but then also just stick up for him because they didn't ask anybody what they thought. He has 3 times as many subscribers as I do. You would have figured they could have reached out to some of those people to say, well, how did you get your benefits? Or I'd say over 90% of the people didn't even pay them. They just went on there, found the content they needed, kind of like y'all do here, and got the benefits they deserve. So really, really disappointed. As we always talk about here, knowledge is power. And I think the more vets who understand, it's one thing for us to say, oh, that article is awful, it's anti-vet. But it's another thing to be able to quantify it and show they consider this little thing a fraud, yet here's this hovering mass of 900,000 claims that were denied and never looked at in detail whether they should have been denied. Our first response was emotional. We were outraged with how awful this article was. So the more people who understand what was not said in that article, the better, so that we don't get the sentiment in America that veterans are just stealing from us. And
I think there's going to be a campaign against veterans. This is the start of it. And that's why I think they picked the Washington Post, because most people think, oh, well, this is liberal. They wouldn't be anti-veterans. This must really be bad. The fact that it took them a year and a half to do this investigation would take 2 days if they wanted to find out what's really going on at the VA. But they didn't want that. They had a specific goal in mind, and that's what they went after. They're going after you, and they're going to make comments. You need to be able to rebut exactly what's going on. And like Matt said, first, it's emotional because it is so untrue, but you need to give them the facts. And I think that's what we need to spread. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking these 63 fraud cases and literally trying to paint all of you. Anybody who used an outside person to help them, anybody who is not, they keep on saying people weren't in combat getting these disabilities. And that's not how Congress wrote this code. They wrote it to include everyone who's in the service because, frankly, and I did say this was probably a jab that was really maybe under the table, but I said being in service is a little different than sitting behind the desk like a reporter. You're looking at a paper cut for a reporter, whereas you guys are out, you're lifting heavy equipment, you're around big explosions. There's always opportunity to get injured, but you're going through it every day. So really disappointed in that, as I know you all are as well. Oh, yeah, it's right there. The code up there, if you want a free copy of our book on getting service connected, scan that and we'll send you a copy. Again, that's kind of my playbook I've developed over the last 20 years on how to win benefits. I put it all down there. We know we can't represent all the veterans who've been wrongly denied. And it's, our job, we feel, to help as many vets as possible, even if we can't directly represent them. So if you need help as far as just kind of the basics of getting service connection, get a copy of that book.
Free. We'll send it to you free. No strings attached. We just want you to know what your rights are.
Hey, Nate here, Hill & Ponton's video guy. The video you just watched is expanded on further in this one right here. Learn something more, increase your rating. As Matt always says, knowledge is power. So go ahead,